of community, our shared prosperity. You all, we have to vote like our lives depend on it, because this year, it absolutely does.
My name is Rafi Friedman Gerspan, and I am a Deputy States Director with the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. LGBTQ people have been under attack over the past 4 years, in particular transgender people. From schoolyards to hospital beds to even military service, our narratives have been slandered and our lives endangered by this reckless administration. Our voices need to be part of the change in governance in the next decade. Equality for LGBTQ people looks like equal opportunity to succeed, equal representation in all aspects of public life, equal quality of life from childhood to elderhood, equal protection under the law in all cases whatsoever. By being at the table in public and private life, we LGBTQ people can directly inform decision-making in our country based on our lived experiences as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people. We can bring about the positive changes we know our community deserves in healthcare, housing, education, and many other important aspects of our lives. By being ourselves, we can bring about immense good for all.
Hey, this is State Representative Sam Park, first openly gay man elected to the Georgia State Legislature. It is a pleasure to be here with y'all to celebrate the progress we have made in our fight for equality. Growing up in the Deep South and raised in a conservative religious household, I was always afraid of someone finding out that I was gay. Not only was I concerned that I would be rejected by my loved ones, I was worried about my personal safety. However, inspired and encouraged by leaders and LGBTQ women of color in Georgia who paved the way for me, such as Carla Drenner, Simone Bell, Keisha Waits, and Park Cannon, I decided to take a leap of faith and run as an openly gay man. Their example taught me to be fearless in the face of uncertainty and to be proud of who I am. And it is an honor to be a part of that legacy and help pave the way for the next generation of LGBTQ leaders. So rise up and be a voice for the voiceless. Be fearless in who you are and give hope to the hopeless. And together, with arms linked, let us continue the march for equality, liberty, and justice for all.
Hi, and welcome to LGBTQ Victory Institute's Democratic National Convention event, Voices of Victory. I'm Pete Buttigieg, and I am thrilled to be with you. Tonight, we are going to be celebrating LGBTQ political power and the leaders who are moving equality forward for all of us. We're going to bring you incredible performances from members of our community like Melissa Etheridge and Billy Porter. You're going to hear inspiring stories from out leaders like Governor Kate Brown, my friend Sharice Davids, Mark Takano, New York City Council member and soon-to-be Congressman Ritchie Torres, Virginia Delegate Danica Roem, and many more. And we have a surprise for you at the end as we come together to honor a legend in the movement for LGBTQ political power. I'm convinced that the decisions we're going to make this year will shape what the rest of this century looks like. And in spite of all of the problems that our country faces, there are so many reasons to be hopeful right now. Right now, there is an American majority ready to tackle systemic racism and police violence, ready to raise the minimum wage to $15 and up and strengthen protections for workers, to trust science and medical experts to combat this pandemic. And in our march toward full equality, while there's a long way to go, just this June, we celebrated a landmark ruling when the Supreme Court finally held that no LGBTQ American can be fired because of who they are or because of who they love. Now, we all know that 2020 has been so challenging, but the ending of the story of this year has not yet been written. That's up to all of us, leaders, activists, ordinary citizens. And it is LGBTQ elected officials who have been at the forefront of so much of the progress. Leaders like Senator Tammy Baldwin, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and Minneapolis City Councilwoman Andrea Jenkins. these LGBTQ elected leaders and the more than 860 out-elected officials across the country are the voices leading on the most important issues affecting Americans today, including equality. That is why we need more from our community to seek and win elected office. The good news is more LGBTQ people are running for office this year than ever before, and the number of out people in elected office has never been higher. But the task ahead is daunting. We would need to elect 22,000 more LGBTQ people to public office to even come close to achieving equitable representation in government. And our voices are needed across the public sector, including appointed positions. President Obama appointed more LGBTQ people to his administration than any president in history, more than 330. And it's great to hear that our nominee this year, Joe Biden, is sincere about wanting to use his presidency to build a bridge to that next generation and usher in a new group of diverse leaders. Victory Institute is working to get LGBTQ voices into government, not just for the sake of representation, but because these leaders are doing the work to transform policy and legislation and ensure that our community is heard in decisions at every level of government. Tonight, you will hear directly from them about the impact they are having in elected and appointed office. But first, I'm excited to introduce our first performer of the night, a Grammy Award-winning singer, activist, and LGBTQ trailblazer, Melissa Etheridge. Over to you, Melissa, and I'll see the rest of you later on.
Thank you, Mayor Pete. In the same way that Senator Tammy Baldwin inspired LGBTQ people across this nation to run for higher office, and Delegate Danica Rome and Councilwoman Andrea Jenkins inspired trans people to run, your candidacy for presidency gave hope to so many young LGBTQ people across this country, across this great nation, that their voices too could be part of this great government and the next administration. You are one of the voices of victory that we are celebrating tonight. So thank you so much, Mayor Pete.
No.
I want to welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here with us, everyone from across this country and around the world. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you text VICTORY to 662266 or visit victoryinstitute.org/give to support. The voices, the Victory Institute needs you so much. We need to make sure that the LGBTQ issues and LGBTQ voices become part of the next administration. Thank you so much for all of your help and support. Now here's a song from 1993. After I came out as a lesbian myself, after I came out to the world, I saw so much change. So much has happened. So much. We still have a long way to go, my friends. So thank you for so much of your support. Now here's Come to My Window. I would dial the numbers just to listen to your breath. I would stand inside my hell and hold the hand of death. You don't know how far I'd go to ease this precious ache. You don't know how much I'd give or how much I can take just to reach you, just to reach you, oh, to reach you, oh. Come to my window, crawl inside, wait by the light of the moon. Come to my window, I'll be home soon. Keeping my eyes open, I cannot afford to sleep. Oh, giving away promises I know I can't keep. Nothing fills the blackness that has creeped into my chest. I need you in my blood, I am forsaking all the rest, just to reach you, just to reach you, oh. you. Oh, come to my window, crawl inside, wait by the light of the moon. Come to my window, I'll be home soon. I don't care what they think. I don't care what they say. What do they know about this love? Come to my window, I'll be home, I am. I'm coming home, come to my window, crawl inside, wait by the light of the moon. Come to my window, I'll be home soon. Oh, I'm coming home. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm State Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith. LGBTQ voices in government are needed now more than ever before, especially as Trump's shameless and bigoted attacks on LGBTQ Americans have empowered those who oppose equality and want to chip away at our progress in legislatures across the country. Together, LGBTQ elected leaders and allies can form unbreakable coalitions to stop these attacks and work to create a stronger, more equal nation.
As an Attorney General, I know that my job is to fight for justice and to stand up against injustice, especially racial injustice. This has been a really hard year for a lot of people. With COVID, we've seen all the 450 years of systemic racism laid bare. The numbers of Black and Brown brothers and sisters who are dying as a result of this pandemic has been horrific. And then followed by the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, so many more innocent Black lives. This is a moment when those of us in power have the ability to lead and transcend and develop new policies and laws that once and for all rid this nation of disparity and systemic racism in all of its forms. As Attorney General, that's what I'm looking to do. Whether it's fighting for reforms necessary to make our criminal justice system more fair, working on reforms to policing, working on issues of environmental justice, ending economic injustice. These are all things that I get to work on every day as an Attorney General. And I think as a member of the LGBTQ community, I understand and have understood a long time the intersectionality that exists. We have so much more power when we work together and we see the other's experience through the eyes of the other. So I just want to say I appreciate everything the Victory Fund does in recognizing that and bringing us together. Seeing is believing. And as a member of this community, I'm now privileged to serve the people of my state.
Hey, beautiful Victory Institute family. I'm Peppermint from the Broadway musical Head Over Heels and RuPaul's Drag Race Season 9, and I'm an official lip sync assassin, of course. Now, I'm not here to promote my brand new single, What You're Looking For, available on iTunes and Spotify today, nor am I here to throw shade at the current occupant of the White House. No. Instead, I'm here as a Black trans woman to tell you that I think that who we elect matters. Now, if you believe that having diverse voices in government matters, then please give a few dollars to Victory Institute right now by texting VICTORY to 662266 or by visiting victoryinstitute.org/give. We need your help in building the most diverse government in history this year, and we certainly need it. 2020 has definitely been a year unlike any that I've ever seen. A worldwide pandemic, the notion of Black Lives Matter finally taking hold, and the global movement that was sparked after the terrible killings of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Ahmaud Arbery. A devastating recession, a Supreme Court ruling on employment protections, and it's only August, y'all. But through it all, LGBTQ governors, members of Congress, attorneys general, and mayors have been doing their jobs. And we need even more representation that will continue to fight for equality and against systemic racism and white supremacy, and put forward bold initiatives to help the unemployed and close the gender pay gap and flatten the curve in their cities and states. There is a lot that needs to be done. And some of these leaders are there doing it right now, but supporting diverse leadership is so important. It's needed now more than ever. It's an unprecedented year. And some have said, you know what? To hell with 2020. I'm out of here. And I've certainly had those moments myself. But we can ensure that 2020 ends on a high note. And the one thing you can do to make that happen is vote. Have a plan, know your local voting policies, and if it's by mail, you need to do it right now. But however you do it, vote. Vote, vote, vote. And in the meantime, take inspiration from the good that's emerging from the challenges that we face. People are stepping it up. They're putting their best selves forward to confront these times. And the incredible LGBTQ leaders are certainly among them. So please give today. I love you all. Stay safe and stay healthy and stay happy.
The coronavirus pandemic has been absolutely devastating for our country, particularly for marginalized communities.
There's no question that LGBTQ members of Congress have stepped up to advocate for our districts during this truly unprecedented time brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic.
We know that the LGBTQ community is particularly vulnerable to systemic failures around healthcare and housing.
One of the biggest challenges that we faced early on in the pandemic is making sure that members of our vulnerable communities were taken care of. We wanted to make sure that no one went hungry, that no one was alone, that no one was not connected up to resources as we dealt with one of the biggest challenges of our lifetime.
From the outset of this pandemic, President Trump has failed to lead this nation. It didn't have to be this way. And LGBTQ leaders across the country, from local mayors to governors and members of Congress, have been leading the fight, filling in the void left by the Trump administration.
Now, more is needed. LGBTQ members have played a critical role in shaping and passing the HEROES Act in May, and we've been relentless in our efforts to push the Senate to take up this bill.
I'm confident that as LGBTQ officials, we will continue to step up and look out for the health, safety, and economic security of all of our constituents, especially during this crisis.
I know, being a member of the LGBTQ plus community, that we are often not thought of, left out, but we have risen.
In the Senate, I have been working with my colleagues across Congress to make sure that essential workers have the personal protective equipment that they need, that factories and workplaces are safe and secure for workers to go back, and that our schools and local communities have the resources they need to provide education and vital services.
Because we know our communities can't wait. That includes more funds for local and state governments, an extension of unemployment support, and more funding for our small businesses.
But we give hope to young people everywhere, seeing us in action, particularly leading in a time of crisis. And this pandemic presents a big challenge to us all.
For those of us who are new to Congress like me, we aren't new to advocating for our communities. And that's what we have done throughout this pandemic. We were elected with the urgency to change Washington and to get results. And we're bringing that same urgency to our response to this pandemic.
LGBTQ members of Congress have stepped up and said, yes, there is systemic racism. Yes, there is a problem with policing. And every single one of us voted in favor of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, which is truly a comprehensive piece of legislation that really does something. So LGBTQ members of Congress stand beside the young people and activists of all ages who are raising their voices to say no to racism and yes to dismantling the system of racism that is the history of our country.
As a member of the LGBTQ community, I know what it feels like to go to work and live in fear that I was going to lose my job because of who I was in love with. No one should have to live with that fear or that discrimination because of whom they love or because of the color of their skin. We are truly all in this together, and we all need to work together to eradicate racism in this country.
Inclusion matters. Having the seat at the table, making sure that when we look at our elected officials, they represent every aspect of ourselves, every aspect from a racial perspective, from a gender perspective, and yes, from a sexual orientation and gender perspective as well. That's really important when you're growing up, to be able to see a face that looks like yours and a life story that looks like yours, and those who hold positions of influence over society. And that's why it's important to step up and run. That's why it's important to help elect diverse office holders, including LGBTQ Americans across our entire country.
Hi, I'm Jocasta Samaripa, a proud, out, openly bi alderwoman and state representative in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. LGBTQ plus representation in government is more important now than ever before. We know when out candidates run, they can win and go on to implement pro-LGBTQ plus equality legislation across the country. Let's do it. Let's win this.
For me, LGBTQ equality looks like the opportunity to succeed and the opportunity to make mistakes for all people in America, whether you are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, intersex, allied, asexual, pansexual, whether you are two-spirit, whether you're non-binary, whether you're gender non-conforming. All of us deserves the opportunities to excel in this country and the opportunity to be able to make mistakes and bounce back from those mistakes.
Hello, my name is Neil Rafferty. I'm a former Marine infantryman, a public health practitioner, a mental health advocate, and now the first openly gay man to serve in the Alabama State Legislature. For 2 years, I've had the tremendous honor and privilege to serve the people of House District 54 in the Magic City, Birmingham, Alabama. I won the election in 2018 through the authenticity of being my true self, which was a privilege afforded by those who came before me. We won through the tenacity and hard work, not only of myself or my husband, but mostly of the grassroots coalition of dedicated volunteers who truly believed that we are better together than we can ever be divided. We won through a solid commitment to the virtues of equality, to justice, and to not leaving anyone behind. These are virtues that I've carried with me throughout my life in service. The late Toni Morrison once spoke the imperative that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. And that is why I try to embody those virtues into every action, every vote and speech that I make in Montgomery. I am just one man and just one of 27 Democrats in a body of 105. But having a seat at this table mandates that I must share my experience, that I must tell my story, and that I must stand and make room for others in the margins to tell theirs.
Hey everyone, I'm Anise Parker, President and CEO of LGBTQ Victory Institute and the former mayor of Houston. Thank you for joining Voices of Victory. Victory Institute works to build and support a pipeline of LGBTQ leaders who will advance equality as elected and appointed officials. Last week, we launched our Presidential Appointments Initiative for 2020, joined by a coalition of 31 LGBTQ and allied organizations who will work with us to build the most inclusive presidential administration in U.S. history. Every contribution made during tonight's event will go directly toward the Presidential Appointments Initiative. You can see the thermometer at the top of your screen. We're off to a strong start, but we'd love your help to meet our goal of $75,000. To donate, you can text VICTORY to 662266 or visit victoryinstitute.org/give. You may even see your name pop up on screen. President Barack Obama appointed more than 330 openly LGBTQ people to his administration, from the White House to nearly every government agency. And those appointees were critical to ensuring our community was considered in every policy decision. But we can do even better in the next administration. We released 4 bold goals for the new administration, including nominating the first LGBTQ Supreme Court Justice, appointing the first Senate-approved member of the Cabinet, appointing LGBTQ women, people of color, and trans ambassadors for the first time, and ensuring that there are more LGBTQ appointees than at any other time in history. Now, every contribution made during this event will go directly toward the Presidential Appointments Initiative and achieving those 4 bold goals. That thermometer has gone up a bit since I've been chatting with you, but I'd love to see it go up even more so we can reach our $75,000 goal. Just text VICTORY to 662266 or visit victoryinstitute.org/give to contribute. We appreciate your support. Now, one of the many activities that we all took for granted and now our community misses dearly is live theater. Here to perform Alanis Morissette's You Learn is the cast of the temporarily on pause hit Broadway musical Jagged Little Pill.
I recommend getting your heart trampled on to anyone. Yeah. I recommend walking around naked in your living room. Yeah. Swallow it down.
What a jagged little pill.
It feels so good.
Swimming in your stomach. Wait until the dust settles.
You live, you learn, you love, you learn, you cry, you learn, you lose, you learn, you bleed, you learn, you scream, you learn. I recommend biting off more than you can chew to anyone.
I certainly do. I recommend sticking your foot in your mouth at any time.
Feel free, hold it down.
The caution blocks you from the wind
Hold it up.
to the rays.
You wait and see when smoke clears. You live, you learn,
You live,
you learn, you cry, you learn,
you lose, you learn.
you bleed, you learn, you scream, you learn. Layla, Layla, Layla,
Hey everybody, this is Celia Israel, State Representative here in Austin, Texas. And when I think about LGBTQ equality and what it means to have people like me at the table, it means us working on really mundane things like budgets, redistricting, which is a big deal, bipartisan support for voting and elections reform. There's a lot of things that we could be working on. What really drives me nuts is that we spend too much time fighting over things like who gets to go into whose bathroom, wrapping ourselves in a religious cloak when what we're really doing as a body is doing harm to gay kids. We need to stop that stuff. And when we have control, we control the agenda. So thanks for caring, thanks for listening, and goodbye from Texas.
LGBTQ representation in government is critical to the success of our nation, perhaps now more than ever. Because now more than ever, we need leadership that is thoughtful, that is kind, and that is unapologetically progressive. That is what the LGBT community represents, and that is the kind of leadership our country deserves.
Hi, I'm Tippy McCullough, and I taught English and coached basketball for 33 years. In October of 2013, something happened that changed the trajectory of my life. I traveled to New Mexico and married my longtime partner, Barbara, and 45 minutes after the ceremony, my school of 14 years called me from Arkansas and told me that if I was getting married, then I would be fired. I lost my job, salary, insurance, retirement plan, friends, basically my identity. After a couple of months at Pulaski County Schools, the iconic Little Rock Central High School called and hired me. But this is not the end of the story. I had changed and knew it was time to get to work in other ways also. At the request of the Human Rights Campaign, Barb and I traveled throughout the South telling our story. I got busy in my community also by getting involved in my neighborhood and church boards, the Stonewall Democratic Caucus, my county party, and state and national teacher union committees. Then in 2018, the state representative seat in my district opened up, and I knew it was now or never. I ran and I won. And I'm about to finish my first term in the Arkansas General Assembly and am unopposed in November, so will begin my second term in January. I'm proud to represent District 33 in my state, and particularly proud to represent the LGBTQ community as the only openly LGBTQ member of the Arkansas legislature and only the second to ever serve. I was fortunate to have the support of family and friends and had resources to make it through my traumatic event, but many are not so lucky. We have so much work to do. You can imagine how encouraged I was by the United States Supreme Court decision to define sex to expand employment protections. But we still have no housing, health care, public accommodations, or civil rights protections. I'm doing that work in Arkansas. I'm inspired to inspire others with my story and my unlikely path from teacher to state rep in 5 years. I know representation matters because I hear it from my community in ways that extend from pleas for help from constituents to the recognition that my being there representing them is important. Representation always matters. I look forward to being a part of progress unheard of in our nation and in Arkansas.
Hey everyone, thanks for hanging out with Victory Institute this evening. I'm Matt Bulmer and I'm so happy to be here with you. Throughout this Voices of Victory event, you've heard from remarkable LGBTQ elected officials who are fighting for our community and proving the importance of having LGBTQ voices in government. But the power of representation extends beyond just government. It's important to have LGBTQ people visible throughout public life, including on our television screens. And it's important to show the diversity of our community as well. LGBTQ people of color, trans people, non-binary people, all of us. From iconic runway fashion to Broadway stardom to his hit show Pose, Billy Porter has transformed how America views our community by bringing his authentic and awe-inspiring self to everything he does. He challenges people to think differently, to be open and accepting, and he does that by preaching one thing above all else: love. I'm so proud to introduce to you one of my heroes, Billy Porter, for what I know will be an incredible performance. And remember, you can support Victory Institute's efforts to get more LGBTQ voices into government right now by texting VICTORY to 662266 or by visiting victoryinstitute.org/give. Now, here's the amazing Billy Porter performing Finally Ready.
100 pounds deep in a kiss. That's the kind of drug I've been missing. I believe it. True love can be more than just a daydream. I wanna experience a time when falling in love has real meaning. I don't need to see it. I know my heart believes it. I wanna know if you're the one who needs my love. Tell me, could you be the one for me? I'm ready, finally ready to fall in love. Baby, I'm ready, ready to fall into when it comes. I'll give it love to you. When it comes to my heart, I think I deserve to be choosing. I'm looking for love, flows like electricity through me. No, I ain't wasting time playing with no part-time lover. No, 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 I want what I want. Let the power of love take me over. I don't need to see it. I know my heart believes it. I wanna know if you're the one who needs my love. Tell me, could you be the one for me? I'm ready, finally ready to fall in love. Baby, I'm ready, ready to fall. If you answer when I call, I'll give it all to you. Yes, I'm ready. Oh, I got hope, y'all. Hey, finally ready. I am. Yes, I am, girl. Oh, ooh, I'm finally ready. Ooh, I'm ready, finally ready to fall in love. Baby, I'm ready, ready to fall. If you answer when I call, I will give it all. Baby, I'm ready, finally ready to fall in love. Baby, I'm ready, ready to fall. If you answer when I call, I will give it all to you.
Why do we need LGBTQ elected officials more than ever? Because our rights need to be protected. Because our stories deserve to be told. Because our lives demand equality and respect. The LGBTQ community has come very far in the last 50 years, but we still have far to go. The more of us who are in office, the easier the path ahead will be. Following the rainbow wave of 2018, we have even more chances to grow our numbers this year. We have to make the most of all of those opportunities. Thanks to Victory Fund and everyone's strong support, I know that we will.
When who you love and how you identify are no longer barriers to things like healthcare, employment, family planning, homeownership, and even justice, that is when we'll live in an equal America. Until then, we must remain steadfast in our commitment to see this work through. I can't wait to live in that America.
Poner tu granito de arena. The idea in Spanish that we all have to put in our own grain of sand to make the world a better place. For me, it started when I was 5 years old. I was on my bed with my sisters and jumping up and down, and at one of those jumps, I fell backwards and hit the back of my head. Started bleeding and having to go to the hospital for the first time ever. I was super scared because the only time I'd heard of the hospital was when a family member was sick or dying. But when I got there, there was a nurse and a doctor who saw that I was nervous and took me underneath their wing. They showed me that hospitals and nurses and doctors were where people went to go feel better, to get better back to their friends and to their families. So I decided at the age of 5 that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help my community. But growing up in the south side of Tucson, I thought that there wasn't very many opportunities for me to help other people other than being a doctor or a nurse. So from the age of 5 to about 18, I would always say, I want to be a doctor. People would give me a pat on the back and tell me that's great. But nobody ever challenged me. Not until 2008 when I met Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, one of my inspirations and one of my heroes, who for the first time ever challenged me and said, well, why do you want to be a doctor? And I said, it's because I want to help people. She said, well, what about advocacy? Have you ever thought about being a voice for those who can't speak for themselves? Growing up in a loud Mexican family, the idea of people not being able to speak for themselves was a foreign concept for me. But she opened my eyes to a world of elected office, of advocacy, and of doing things to better our community outside of just medicine. I was thankful to her to being able to be open to this new world. I started out my career in advocacy when I was 18 on the City of Tucson's LGBTQI Commission, and then I served as a school board member and now as a state legislator. For me, being a voice for those who can't be a voice for themselves, particularly people who are often not heard or seen in elected office, the LGBTQ people, the Latino people, and anybody else who's disenfranchised, has become my priority. This is my story, and one that I hope you'll learn from, because we can all do something to put in our granito de arena.
What a great evening. We're going to get to our surprise in just a few minutes, but first, I want to thank all of the phenomenal performers, elected officials, and guests who recognized the importance of building LGBTQ political power and took the time to join us tonight. And thank you to Victory Institute for bringing us together to celebrate during this unconventional convention week. Senator Tammy Baldwin, Mayor Anise Parker, and so many others have spoken about the importance of representation in government by sharing the adage, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. That remains true today, but in this election, we have the opportunity to build the most progressive, diverse, inclusive government in the history of our country. None of this work would be possible without so many of you giving your time, energy, and of course, yes, contributions. So if you can, please visit victoryinstitute.org/give to make a donation. A contribution of $5 or $10 goes a long way. 51 years ago in New York City, our community, led by queer people of color and trans people, fought back at Stonewall in the face of police violence and laid the foundation for the movement for equality. In the years that followed, our community began to demand not just liberation, but political power, and we began to run for office. In 1977, an activist named Harvey Milk decided to run for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. During his campaign, he talked about having allies in office is important, but it isn't enough. LGBTQ people need to be in office too. His now famous Hope speech, which he gave during San Francisco's Pride Parade in June of 1978, was a call to action for so many LGBTQ people. Tragically, 5 months later, Harvey Milk was assassinated in San Francisco's City Hall. But his legacy, along with the legacies of candidates like Jose Sarria, Kathy Kozachenko, Elaine Noble, and so many others, would inspire countless LGBTQ Americans to follow in their footsteps and run for office, including me. Now, reading the final paragraphs of Harvey Milk's Hope speech are the LGBTQ elected officials he has inspired from all across the country. Thank you again for joining us. Stay safe, stay well, and stay motivated.
The young LGBTQ people
In the Altoona, Pennsylvanias,
and the Richmond, Minnesotas who are coming out.
The only thing they have to look forward to is hope.
You have to give them hope.
Hope for a better world.
Hope for a better tomorrow.
And hope for a better place to come to.
If the pressures at home are too great.
Hope that all will be all right.
Without hope, not just the gays,
but the blacks,
the seniors,
the handicapped,
the us's.
The us's will give up.
And if you help elect more LGBTQ people,
that gives a green light to all who feel disenfranchised.
A green light to move forward.
It means hope to a nation that has given up.
Because if an LGBTQ person makes it,
the doors are open to everyone.
So if there's a message I have to give,
it's the fact that if an LGBTQ person can be elected,
it's a green light.
And you, and you, and you, and you, and you.
have to give the people
hope. Hope.